Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Demand the Data Dude. So, in this video, we're going to continue working on data visualizations. In the last one, I taught you guys how to graph scatter plots in R and how you can analyze them. In this video, we're going to continue working on that, but I'm going to teach you some more specifics that we can use to color code and make sure we get the most out of our scatter plots. So let me just go over a little bit of what we did in the last video. In the last video, I told you guys how to load and install the package Tidyverse, which contains this ggplot2, which is the easiest way to graph in R. Then, I made you guys use the MPG dataset, which contains manufacturers and some other data about those cars, to make a graph, figure out their fuel engine size and their efficiency. And we came up with this graph. And then I finally gave you guys a template, which we can use to graph anything we want if we know what should be on the x-axis, what should be on the y-axis, how we'd like to graph it. In this video, we're going to start making this scatter plot a little bit more specific, because as we can see here, the cars don't just have, they're not all the same type. Some are compact, some may be hybrids, they all have different, they may be auto or manual, so we can figure that out and we can separate those on our scatter plot. Okay, now let's look at this graph and let's see what we find. We said in the last video that this is the car's engine size and this is its efficiency. We see that it's a negative trend. So we see that as the size goes up, the fuel efficiency will go down. However, over here, there's 3 or 4 dots that don't seem to fit this negative trend. They seem to be higher than what we would expect. So one way we could figure out why this is we can look back at our data. And we can see that there can be different types. There can be different types of cars. So they can be an SUV, maybe a hybrid car, and hybrid cars will have a higher efficiency than most. So what we can do is we can try and separate and make sure on our graph we can see which ones are the different types of cars. So we can make one color SUVs, one color hybrids, and one color for another type of car, and we can figure out why these are not fitting our trend. Last time, we graphed our MPG dataset using this structure. ggplot, giving our data as the MPG dataset, using geom_point, which is a scatter plot, and using the x-axis as the fuel engine size, and using the y-axis as the fuel efficiency. And we got a graph that looked like this without the colors. Then we saw these points up here, which seemed to go away from the trend, the negative trend we had seen before. So maybe those cars are hybrids, because those cars have a higher fuel efficiency and a higher engine size than most of the cars. What we can do is we can color code this graph under class. So how we're going to do that is we're going to write the same exact code we wrote last time, except now we're going to add color is class. So the graph itself will give us a color for the different classes in this data set. So we're going to see that there's 2-seater, compact, mid-size, minivan, and so on. Now you look here and you can see a clear trend. The orange ones seem to be centered around here, green seem to be centered over here, and the pink and blue ones are centered down here. And there's these 5 different little pink ones over here, and those are 2-seaters. And that means they don't need they need a big fuel size, but they can output a much higher fuel efficiency. So now this is how you can explain these data points which are moving away from the negative trend. So it's always useful to make sure to look at if there are any more factors other than the fuel size, the engine size, and the fuel efficiency. There's also the class, and maybe there's the year that could also be done, so we can figure out why these points are not fitting our trend. So now we graphed it using the colors, and we were able to explain how these data sets move away from the trend. There are other ways we can also graph. For example, we can use this same code, but instead we don't have to make it color, we can make it size. So now So now, we're going to get this graph, which has size. Obviously, this looks terrible, so don't use size for these sorts of data scatter plots because it's not going to look good. But this is another way how you can also separate your class and figure out which ones are different. So the first thing we can do is if you use this code and we use alpha instead of size, if you use alpha, you'll change the graph so it'll be less or more transparent for each class. This is not recommended, you can't really see the points, but it's another way to do it. There's also one more way you can do it, by using you can use shape. Obviously, this will make all of them different shapes. If you look here, SUV is missing. This is because the shape palette can deal with a maximum of 6 values, discrete values. So we have 7 here, so this is not going to be possible. We cannot use more than 6 for this scatter plot. That's why it says it removed 62 rows. So I don't recommend using this if you don't want to have more than 6. You should probably use color. And now here's actually one last way we can do it. If we want to make this whole scatter plot one color, we can use the same exact code and just add color equals and make sure to insert it in between quotation marks, the color, blue. And then we can make the whole scatter plot the same color. So in this video, I taught you guys using the data set we had in the last one. I showed you guys the graph we got. And then I said, these points here look a little bit different. So maybe there are some things that could have been affecting that. Its class, the year it was made. So we used some aesthetics, some color coding, and we managed to figure out that they were two-seaters, and that's why they had a higher fuel efficiency. So this is important that we figure out why these discrepancies happen, why these are not fitting our trend, using these aesthetics to color code, and it makes it very easy to explain it to someone who doesn't know why those points are like that. So this was my second part of data visualizations. I just showed you guys how to analyze the graphs a bit better. I showed you how to use size, shape, the transparency, and all different ways to classify the graph in the data set. So that's it for me in this video. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.